Over the last few years, I've had the chance to study the workouts of hundreds of table tennis players. Now, I don't mean in the lab with a white coat. I mean in the real world, training people in person, auditing the programs of my one-on-one training clients, running challenges, consulting with club-level players, including some semi-pros, and just seeing what the average table tennis players are actually doing in the gym. And after all that time in the trenches, I can tell you that most people are making the same fundamental mistakes that are capping their potential. I even made a free quiz to help you identify which potential mistakes you might be making, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But first, I want to set the stage with some context as to why I felt compelled to make this video in the first place. When I first started this business a few years ago, a strange thing happened, where it didn't matter if I was at my club, or if it was in my Instagram DMs, or in my email inbox, or at a tournament, the same exact thing kept happening, where I'd get the exact question, literally word for word: what exercises should table tennis players focus on? Now, in some ways, that's a completely natural question to ask me. My company's called Peak Performance Table Tennis. I get that, but I guess the word for word nature of the question, how it was phrased exactly that way, just kind of took me by surprise a little bit. And the problem is, it's the wrong question. Asking what exercises is kind of like asking a chef what ingredients are best. The magic isn't in the ingredient itself, but in how you use it. Do you just need a pinch for flavor, or is it the main course? The same ingredient can have wildly different results depending on how you use it. Same is true for exercise. Take the squat, for example. If you're doing heavy triples, you're going to be focusing on building maximal strength. But if you take that same squat and perform sets of 30 reps to failure, you're now focusing on muscular endurance. Same exercise, totally different outcome. So it's not so much the what, but the how. The exercise is just a vehicle, and it depends on how you use it and how you perform it to get the intended outcome. So the first step is to stop hunting for magic ingredients and instead consider the recipe as a whole. And the thing about recipes is it's all about proportions. A little hot sauce is great for flavor, but too much will ruin the dish, and it's useless without the meat and potatoes there. So what are the meat and potatoes of our table tennis training? Well, to answer that question, I created a simple framework called the Peak Performance Table Tennis Pyramid, and I'll be walking you through that now. But this video is just a quick overview of the entire system. In the coming weeks, I'll be doing a more detailed deep dive into each level of the pyramid. So if you want the full playbook, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss out. Now let's dive in. Okay, here it is, the Peak Performance Pyramid, and you can think of this as your guide to prioritizing your training to take your limited time and get the most bang for your buck. And honestly, I made this to help you not make the biggest mistake I see players make, which, if you remember our hot sauce analogy, is they're essentially chugging the bottle. Okay, they scroll through social media, see a flashy exercise of a player mimicking a loop with a resistance band, or maybe running through an agility ladder while juggling, and think, that's it, that's the secret sauce that I need. They're drawn to what looks sport-specific and fancy, but in doing so, they miss the foundational athletic qualities that are the real drivers of performance. It's a classic case of putting the cart before the horse, or to return to our previous analogy, adding a dash of hot sauce to an empty plate. This pyramid flips that script, forcing you to build from the ground up, starting with the meat and potatoes of athleticism first. So let's take a quick look at each level. Level 1 is sport-specific practice. This is the foundation because playing table tennis is the most specific training possible, and it's already doing the job of filling many of the athletic buckets you want as a table tennis player. Every time you play, your table tennis specific stamina, muscular endurance, agility, change of direction, reaction time, anticipation, those are all getting trained. But you do need to be honest with yourself and ask, are you really making the best use of your table time? To get better physically, the first change you should make is to treat your club nights like training. Start incorporating tough drills, modified matches. Try to make your training as intense or more to the extent possible as a real tournament match. Level 2 is our engine room, strength, speed, and power. This is our first level of off-table work because these are the crucial empty buckets that table tennis training typically leaves out. Now, you need to build your raw horsepower before you can refine that and apply it to your table tennis game. And in my experience, this is the most neglected area for two main reasons. First, people think that strength training is going to make them big and slow and bulky, which is a total myth. Second, well-meaning athletes use suboptimal methods where they think they're training for speed or power, but they really aren't. And a common issue here is not taking long enough rest periods between explosive efforts or pushing sets to failure, which can blunt power adaptations. I'll get more into this when we do the full deep dive video on this level, but for now, your actionable takeaway here is you should be spending plenty of time in the gym with bread and butter compound movements getting stronger over time, and building your speed with classic exercises like sprinting, and building power with plyometrics, resisted jumps, Olympic lifts and their variants. None of these things look particularly table tennis-y, and they shouldn't. This is general physical prep, and it should make up the bulk of your off-the-table training. Level 3, we focus on endurance. This is like our fuel tank and cooling system for our engine. Now, this sits on top of strength, speed, and power because if a single point is an all-out sprint, your aerobic system is what helps you recover and apply that same level of speed and power in your next point 20 seconds later. Now, this can be trained very well with table tennis, but I know that some of us are limited in how often we can get to the club. So in terms of building stamina off the table, I like to focus on building a nice base with some low impact zone 2 cardio, something like 2 to 3 times a week, 30 to 60 minutes at zone 2 pace, and then supplementing that with high intensity interval training, or HIIT, which does a much better job of mimicking the intermittent movement profile of table tennis and is a little more specific to training the energy systems we actually use during our points. So doing those two things will cover your bases for endurance very well. Level 4 is specialized training, and this is where a lot of athletes start to like to hang out because things start to look a little more specific for table tennis. But it's important to remember that this is just a way to connect the dots between what you do in the gym to what happens on the court. And you can't fine-tune the engine if you haven't built the engine first. So this is where we start to incorporate things like medicine ball throws for developing and expressing rotational power in your hips and torso. This is the heart of every single one of your strokes, so these movements help to train those patterns without falling into the trap of attempting to precisely mimic the strokes. We can also bring in more multi-directional speed and agility work to deepen those buckets more than we would get just from our table work alone. And we can add some bulletproofing type exercises for areas of the body that take a beating in table tennis, like the wrists, elbows, shoulders, and ankles. Finally, we reach level 5, and this is our special sauce, if you will. We've got cognitive training, coordination, vision training, and this is at the peak because it has the smallest impact and the biggest opportunity cost. Social media, you see people tapping reaction lights or endless ladder drills or juggling while singing Yankee Doodle. And this is just not the best use of your valuable time if you're looking to really move the needle in terms of your performance. And a big problem with this is it's just watered down training. It fails on 2 big fronts. First, the physical challenge on these types of drills is often too weak to create a real adaptation. And second, the cognitive challenge is still less potent than the most high-octane brain exercise on the planet, playing table tennis. This leads us to a key rule to remember. For physical training like strength, speed, and power, a general stimulus is best, but for cognitive training, a specific near-transfer stimulus is key. More on that later, I promise. So that was just a quick and dirty overview of the entire pyramid. I hope this helped in showing you where to prioritize your training a little bit, but that still might leave you with the question, where do I specifically need to focus given my current state? And for that, I created a short free quiz. It only takes about 60 seconds to complete, and it will tell you your unique power profile. And it's a perfect first step towards building a smarter training program. I'm also going to send you my free routine and show you how to customize it based on your results. Link in the description. So go take that quiz. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because next time I'm going to be doing a deep dive into level 1, and I'll show you how to structure your on-table training to get the most physical benefit out of it. So you've got the knowledge, now it's time to take action. May the spin be with you.